I'm a comic writer. I tend to view folks as comic characters. I'm not a big believer in heroes. I think we're living in a time that kind of proves me right.
Actor, writer, Harry Shearer. Today on Now I've Heard Everything. I'm Bill Thompson. Well, many people don't know that the man who provides the voices for many of the most popular characters on The Simpsons was once a child actor who actually worked with Abbott and Costello and Jack Benny. Harry Shearer was on television and in the movies in the 1950s. Now, of course, in the last 36 years or so, he's best known to most people as the voices of many characters on The Simpsons. He's the voice of Ned Flanders and Principal Skinner and Mr. Burns and Mr. Smithers. So he got a long time to polish his skills as an actor and as a writer, but it took him until 2006 to write his first book of fiction. It was a satirical novel called Not Enough Indians. Now, the basic premise of the story, essentially, is there's a small, dying town that decides to try to become an Indian tribe so they can land a casino. What could possibly go wrong? Well, Harry and I met one afternoon in the fall of 2006 at a popular Washington, D.C. hotel while he was on a book tour to talk about the book. In just a moment, our conversation.
Remember, we were all younger once. Here's an interview from years ago when national radio personality Bill Thompson still had hair. Enjoy.
So here now from 2006, Harry Shearer.
Now, this is not your first book, but it is your first novel, is that right?
That's correct. I've had two nonfiction books, one a collection of columns and one a book-length essay on why people hated Clinton called It's the Stupidity Stupid.
Well, people who will read Not Enough Indians, they're going to say, my gosh, what took you so long with fiction?
I hope they do. I remember in my 20s thinking, well, if I think I'm a writer, I should be writing a novel of some sort, but I have nothing to say and I don't know enough. This clearly was in the days before people made a lot of money writing novels, not knowing enough and having nothing to say. So I waited until I had an idea that amused me, and then I realized, with the help of a friend, that this was an idea that was never going to become a movie, so I might as well write it as a book. And there I was. My bluff had been called.
Well, give us a thumbnail sketch where the plot takes us.
Well, it starts with a town, the folks, the leading edge of a town in upstate New York that has gone so on the skids. When the national chains moved out, the people who took over the stores didn't have the money to change the signs completely, so Starbucks is now Orlocks, and Rite Aid is now It Aid. And eventually they come to the conclusion the only way to save the town is to take advantage of a slight legal quirk and get themselves recognized as an Indian tribe so they can open a casino. And so this takes them on a journey that ends up taking the reader to Washington and to Vegas and to another large Indian casino in the Northeast. And it just sort of keeps going around those areas until the entire thing, until hilarity ensues, as I believe the cliche is.
Was there any purpose to the time period in which you set this story?
Yeah, it was very precisely chosen because I was concerned all the way through. I'm always concerned as a writer that I'm not a fantasist. So I even if I do a story that seems a little bit far-fetched, as this one might, I want the knowledgeable reader to say to him or herself, that could have happened. And that was the period of time when this could have happened. There is now in the middle of the first decade of the 21st century, there's beginnings of a serious backlash against Indian casinos. So they wouldn't have had the kind of easy ride that this did have or would have had in the mid and late 90s. So that's exactly why I put it there.
And in the 60s, it wouldn't have been an issue.
In the 60s, the legal quirk didn't exist. I think it was the Mashantucket Pequots who started Foxwoods that really blew this legal door wide open.
But we're talking about a town that even Walmart won't have.
That's correct. There's a scene early in the book in which the mayor calls up Walmart begging for a store, and the executive at Walmart is a little nonplussed at the blatantness and baldness of the proposal, but as he says, or he doesn't say it, the narrator says that begging, a small town begging to have a Walmart holds no more water with them than a small town begging them not to open nearby, so it doesn't make any difference to them. They look at their database and make their decision.
There you go. So you declare yourself an Indian reservation. You open a casino. What could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong except that there's another Indian casino, a huge one nearby, that doesn't particularly cotton to the idea of opposition. And also neighboring towns now find themselves clogged with traffic from people coming in. It's, the law of unintended consequences is in full force. And it's my favorite law, by the way.
One which we obey assiduously. Is there anybody in this book that you don't lampoon in one way or another?
I hope not. I'm a comic writer. I tend to view folks as comic characters. I'm not a big believer in heroes. And I think we're living in a time that kind of proves me right.
But how do you top the daily newspaper with its silliness?
You don't try to top it. You just try to distill it. You just try to take out the pauses and the dull parts. That's my strategy. I think nothing is funnier or sillier than actual human behavior. That's why I say I'm not a fantasist. I don't think you can do better than the real human animal in terms of coming up with great comedy. But I just try to be an observer and a distiller, and hope for the distiller's usual result: comic intoxication.
Now, structurally, with your background in television and the visual arts, do you see a story like this before you?
As I'm writing it, do I see scenes? I'm thinking about the answer to that. That's the sound of thinking. I think at times I did. Again, I didn't imagine a lot of this. I didn't make up a lot. I don't have a vivid imagination. I hope I'm a good observer, of comic detail. So a lot of this either was stuff that I had already known, details of legislative life, because I worked at the state legislature in California. Yeah. Or I did visit some casinos to scope up some local color, as they say. So, I tried to have a visual sense of stuff, but clearly it's from having observed it, not from having imagined it.
You don't have any friends like Loose Slots?
I do not have any friends like Tony Loose Slots Salata. He's one of the few characters that I did kind of make up, although there is a model for him in real life. But if I say his name, he might sue me, and he should live so long. No, I don't have any friends with quite that combination of big money and small taste.
After this short break, Harry Shearer explains a key ingredient in creating a comedic character.
AI is not just for 22-year-old coders. A lot of us older adults are drawing on our life experience to find unique and creative ways to use AI, at home or at work. Got an AI success story you'd like to share? Tap the link below to visit our YouTube channel, AI After 40, and let's keep learning together.
Now back to my 2006 conversation with Harry Shearer.
To me, the astounding thing about a story like this, and what makes it so much fun to read, is that you have taken us right to the edge, but you haven't gone over the edge to the point where I slammed the book shut and said, "Oh, come on, this is just so unbelievable. I can't handle this."
Well, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. Was you to say that? I dreamed of this day. No, I don't want to go over that edge, because as a reader, I don't go there. As a viewer, I stop at that point. So, as a writer or a creator, I'm going to stop at that point too.
It's very easy to get into the silly, and you have not gotten into the silly with this book.
Well, again, I try to. I guess it's my background. My first writing and my writing for a long time was in journalism, and so and I wrestled for a while with the narrative voice of this, and early on in the book, it's silly to say early on about a book that's that short, but it's true. I think I subtly shifted narrative voice depending on which characters I was were in the lead for that particular chapter. But I think all the way through, overall, the narrative voice is sort of a not a journalistic voice, but trying to describe what's going on as if this is really happening. And I really tried to. My first draft was just trying to tell the story to myself. I had no idea how I was going to end or where it was going to go. I just started. And so I was telling the story in a way that I could make myself believe, yeah, this could have happened. So that was the focus throughout. And then, hopefully the funny followed.
Well, one of your blurbers, and I can't remember which of them, said that these people really aren't very likable, but we sympathize with them. We feel sorry for them all the same because they're just like us. No, wait a minute, they are us, he said.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's... I was trying to describe at one point a screenplay to that I wanted to make into a movie to a fairly famous Hollywood liberal executive, and who had been a fan of my radio show and had heard a sketch that I'd done. I did this series of sketches where Nixon has somehow wangled his way into heaven, but he's still taping. And so I have these tapes of Nixon from heaven, Nixon in heaven. So anyway, I described this whole screenplay idea to this executive, and he says, well, are we going to like any of these characters? And I said, let me ask you a question. When you heard that sketch last Sunday, did you hate Nixon? He said, no. I said, well, if I can make you like... And it's not that I was making him like Nixon. I was writing, the whole audacity of the idea that Nixon wangled his way into heaven in his taping is not what you'd call likable as a character trait. But I think I learned from working for Jack Benny as a child, I was the child, that there's a certain humanity that all comic characters share. And you can write them as tough as you like, as long as you don't write them as monsters, as long as you remember they're still us. They still have our flaws and our temptations and our lapses.
That is a fine line you walk, though, isn't it? To lampoon someone, but still make us identify with them and actually like them, even if we don't want to?
Well, I don't think so. I think the great comedians, that's what I aspire to, have always done. Benny's character was totally unlikable. Bilko's character was totally unlikable. Ralph Cramden's character was totally unlikable, except for the end when he said, "Baby, you're the greatest." He had 1 second of likability in each show. But what made them eminently lovable was how funny they were and how human they were and how you recognized yourself even in the worst of their behavior because it was funny and real.
Well, and the word that you haven't mentioned yet is vulnerability. They all had flaws.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what's comic about them. And that's what I don't like about most television comedy is the people don't have comic flaws. They just tell jokes to each other because network research tells them that the characters have to be likable. Uh-oh, bad decision.
So is there no hope that this could ever be a movie?
Oh, I didn't say that. I think if enough people buy the book, you never know.
Has it been out long enough for you to get an early reaction to it?
It's been out a couple weeks. I don't think it's had a lot of reviews yet. I've run into people who've read it and liked it. I don't read reviews, so I just have to hear tell, as they say. But I think so far so good, as the guy says on his fall off a 20-story building.
Do you have another novel in you?
I don't know. I've just been, in the last couple of months, thinking about another idea that interests me. I know it's interesting. I'm still trying to figure out what might be funny about it, and I sort of have to get there first. I mean, I've been thinking about characters who would populate it and the area that it covers, which is big. But as I say, I'm trying to figure out the funny way in.
Well, you're not going to put that on hold for the 2008 presidential campaign, because you're a columnist on the Huffington Post as well.
I'm specifically a media columnist for them. I'm a friend of Ariana's. I'm not necessarily cut from the same political cloth as most of the people who write for them, although casual readers tend to assume that without reading me carefully. But no, I mean, I write basically when an idea grips me. The main next project right now is a musical that I have written with a partner called J. Edgar, ! About the life and life of J. Edgar Hoover. It is a love story, and
We'll see if you can do for him what you did for Richard Nixon.
we're going to try real hard.
By the way, one quick after note to this interview. I really wish sometimes that I would just keep my recorder going after the interview, but I turned it off this time as I do at the end of the interview, so I missed the part where, as we were getting up, I was heading to the door, he was heading back to the elevator to go up to his room, and he just turned to me in the perfect Mr. Burns voice and said, "Excellent." Oh, I wish I had that on tape. Anyway, you can get your copy of Not Enough Indians by Harry Shearer by tapping the link in our show notes, by clicking the link in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube, or by going to our website, heardeverything.com. We may earn an Amazon commission if you make a purchase. Heardeverything.com is where you can also hear my 2003 interview with another master of satire, Tony Hendra.
It seems to me inconceivable that Christ, who obviously was a great preacher, did not crack the odd joke from time to time. I mean, all great public speakers know how to do that, you know. I mean, I've often thought that somewhere buried in the gospel there might be some one-liners.
And my 2003 interview with a guy who knows a little bit about small towns, Garrison Keillor.
In Minnesota, you're not quite allowed to enjoy your success. We are a culture of modest people, and we would actually prefer that you come in second or third.
And of course, we post new episodes of Now I've Heard Everything every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and you can find us everywhere you find podcasts. Thank you so much for listening. Next time on Now I've Heard Everything, do you remember back in 2008 when on the campaign trail, Sarah Palin said this about Barack Obama?
To pal around with terrorists?
Yeah, she was talking about the guy that you'll hear from next time on Now I've Heard Everything, my 2013 interview with Bill Ayers.
When it comes to the First Amendment, I'm a fundamentalist. When it comes to prisons, I'm an abolitionist. When it comes to economics, I'm a socialist. And when it comes to government, I'm an anarchist. So, I'm many things and more than that.
That's next time on Now I've Heard Everything. I'm Bill Thompson.